Welcome to Breaking Barriers with R&D, your direct line to Randy Dowdy and David Hula, here to help fellow farmers unlock the potential in their fields. Are you looking to implement best practices that maximize ROI? You've come to the right place. Real value, real yield, real ROI. Breaking Barriers with R&D starts now.
Good morning, David. It's good to have you here. It's another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. I feel like this year I'm having to break some new barriers to learn. So we're very glad to be here. We're going to talk about some of what's going on in Georgia and Michigan and Virginia for sure. But while we're at it, we want to really thank BASF and the other sponsors. BASF's been a premier sponsor for us, but we really want to thank them for being a part of this. And if you're out there listening, when you're making your product selections, think about BASF. They've had a lot of success on our farm. Would you agree, David?
Yeah, and actually, Dowdy, yesterday and day before, we were spraying some corn and we were putting some pre-Axar out there. So give them a little plug as well.
There you go.
We've done plenty of stuff, but that's one thing that we are pretty firm on right now is
And
take
we were
care.
doing some Veltima and furrow, believe it or not. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful right now. I'm in Michigan, man, and the weather is just sucks. I'm telling you, I had some total acre guys asking me for advice in Indiana on what to do, and I said, let's stick with the fundamentals. Let's don't break outside of that. And I hope they remember all the fundamentals that we talk about. But I am very thankful right now. We've got some cooler temperatures that's bringing the soil temps down. We're 50 for a high, 38 to 40 for a low, and unfortunately, it's raining, David. So
Yeah.
what is that ground temp going to do? And what is that seed going to do? I am very thankful. Now we've got beans planted, not corn, but we've got some beans planted up here, and I am very thankful for having that fungicide and the fur and a good seed treatment. So
Yeah, well, it's funny. I guess Dave Schrock, he called me too, or sent me a text, just like he shared you. I guess, it's kind of like the weatherman. You keep changing the channels till you get the answer you want or the weather you want. So I don't know, but I kind of think we both gave him the same response from a standpoint, following the fundamentals. And Dowdy, the thing is, it's across the whole country. Now, the Southwest, California and Texas are warm, but when you look at Nebraska has been warm and then they turn cold. The Midwest has turned cold and now they're wet. And yeah, then your heart goes out to all those that have had some tough weather.
and I've heard David, I've heard some say that they planted 2 or 3 windows already, and they just do not have the emergence that they covet. And they've got hopefully one more window in them to get this crop planted. Then do they roll the dice? The weather, the forecast, if they're correct, it's not going to be favorable for heat unit accumulation. And my question to them, quite frankly, was this, David: can you make money with insurance? Nope. I said, can you pay the bills with the insurance? Nope. I said, is your APH high enough that if you own the land, can you at least pencil a profit? It's going to take it all. And I said, well, what about, can you make APH yields planting late and with the forecast and have a repeat of a non-perfect stand? And they said, absolutely not. I says, well, are you too late to plant? We're getting there. I said, I'll take my chances on we'll get there. Not going into it knowing, based off mine and your experience, what we teach and what they've already seen this year, not having a good stand due to conditions were favorable, but probably chances are the forecast changed and it just punched them in the nose, right? So just a bad deal.
Yeah, and then growers that got stuff planted. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing on Air Farm, we had great emergence, but then we got wet. We've been cool, and I've walked across. I talked to Jimmy Ward, my nutrient guy. I said, "Are you seeing what I would consider a really good cornfield?" And we're seeing good fields, but nothing off the chain great, just because of the lack of heat and the rain, lack of sunshine. And trying to get your herbicides out before we get too far. We talked about that the other day, and we got to start side dressing corn. So then you look out west where they were warm, and then I was talking to a couple growers, and they had all this wind, and then I saw on AgWeb that we've had the windiest spring on record, and they're getting sandblasted on corn. So stuff that's up, it's just been a struggle across the country. Now, probably down in Georgia and Alex's area, they're probably and Jonathan Hitchcock, where we're going to see later. They probably got things just knocking out of the park and growing great. So, you
Well,
know,
I do know a birdie has told me that there are some guys that's got some corn. It's amazing, David. They chirp pretty loud when things aren't going just right. I mean, they're kind of getting the dumps and things like that, and then they kind of get quiet when I have found when things they don't want to say too much because they're afraid they'll jinx it. But there are supposedly some pretty good crops in northeast Georgia. I have not talked to Alex, but I assume he's had it's been pretty dry. Now we've had some rains of late. We've had some cloudy days, and that's not always a good thing, especially during grain field. But I think he had a run there of favorable weather, where you haven't actually irrigate, and that means you got premium sunshine, right? And for all of us that have pivots, I just seen get a little help at night, but during the day, I want to pivot. I think I can make some high yields that way, and I've done it in the past many times. So
yeah,
so I know some boys in Georgia, and we're going to be doing. Obviously, we'll be in their fields next week, I think, and then
yeah,
we'll be in. I think you're going to Mississippi.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I actually go to Mississippi on Memorial Day, so we'll start the crop tours with Total Acre in Mississippi. And for anybody that wants to participate, all they got to do is log in, go to totalacre.com, and we have that posted there where the crop tours are going to be. So I'll be there Tuesday. Then I leave early Wednesday morning, catch up with you in Atlanta, Dowdy, and then we go out and catch up with the Hitchcocks, who we'll see, and we'll spend some time for Wednesday and Thursday morning in Georgia. So
yeah,
it'd be good to have some sunshine.
we want to see some Robbie Brett and a couple other farmers there too. I've heard Mr. Cobb, Kevin Cobb, and Trevor and them's got some good corn. So we might even sneak over there. So we'll get to see some good crops. I think these Georgia boys know how to do it, right? So
Yeah.
they're making some good yields, and
Yeah.
look forward to seeing some good crops and have some good fellowship. But for people that's listening out there, David, I mean, it's one thing to hear you talk. It's another thing to be a student under you, myself included. And when we go to the fields, I mean, David's a dirt junkie. I mean, he's going to have a shirt that's untucked, and he's going to not have a button up most likely on, and he's going to wear a pair of shorts, and his knees is going to be brown and dirty, and he's going to have his fingers dirty and nails dirty, and he's going to be digging with a shovel or a knife or whatever he can get. And he's checking with a penetrometer. He's doing a root pit if he's got time. If they've already got a root pit, he gets down in it and he starts looking at roots. He likes to look below ground as much as he does above ground.
Yeah.
And for people to be able to go and see the king, and what he looks for, and how he feels like he can, influence a crop at whatever point we're visiting, he's willing to share that information. So if you're interested, go to totalacre.com, see our schedule. Feel free to come out and see what we're doing, and you get a little bit of a light shed on what we do. It's not just a boys club, right? We are sharing a lot of information. So
Yeah, because I'm excited about seeing what we're going to see down in both Mississippi. Because I talked to Preston Arrington this morning, and he's got corn tasseling. So so it's not as early as we like to go to some crop tours, but now we're still going to be able to influence it because we'll find that little ear and finish the crop as well. We know we can do, and then we'll be able to assess things he did right. That the plant doesn't lie; it tells you things that, hey, I was planted the right depth, or my fertilizer, I captured it quickly. And but you're talking about me, so here we're going to be in Georgia together. A lot of times we split up, but while we're in Georgia, we always have one camp that you and I'll be together, so we can both see things. And it's kind of cool to watch growers because some gravitate towards me, some gravitate towards you. That good cop, bad cop thing. It's always good to be the bad cop on occasion. I'll try to wear a black T-shirt, and so, but people watch you and see how you assess it. When you start looking at leaves, and then you start looking at singulation, and nutrient deficiencies, and emergence. Those type things. growers oftentimes overlook Dowdy. They just go out there, they drive by, they say, "Hey, this crop looks good." But then you go out in there and like, sometimes things look good. And sometimes it's like, "Hey, fellas, let's stop spending money on this crop. This isn't a crop that we're wanting to. This is your regular corn. Let's find you a good field." And that's what I like about these tours, both of us, particularly when we're together.
Well, there's been times, David, and it's painful to look at growers and tell them, man, it's a corn crop. Don't push. You know how to grow the yields you've been making. That's what I'd shoot for. It's a tough conversation to tell people that when they've tried or spent money or done something and they miss something. Most of the time, the planter. Most of the time, whatever it takes to get that first box checked, emergence, they just don't have that box checked. And but it's very encouraging when I can look at a grower and say, you know what, I'd like to say this was my field, and then I try to buy it from them. I tell you what I'll do. What's your APH? Oh, 230. I'll buy this field for 230. I ain't had anybody sell me one yet, but I think that's a good way, David, that we try to tell them this is a field probably that we'd be happy with. Not only that there's some opportunity there, and then we try to encourage them some things to go try to influence that yield. And there's a lot of pencils go and text messages, and often we actually see some people actually leave, and they don't go to the next stop. And I'm like, where'd so and so go? Well, you done told him 3 things he ought to be doing. He says, there ain't no better time than the present. He's gone. And that's flattery, man, because now they're listening. They're not letting any, grass grow under their feet. They're getting it done. They're getting out there and they're getting after it. So, and when you see the light bulbs go off and they hear something like that from you, I mean,
Well, what do you say? I mean, the difference between a good farmer and a bad farmer, time and attention to detail and level of acceptance. Well,
absolutely.
when you say it's time to do something, it's time to go.
Well,
'Cause
and that's why I say it clicked, David. They didn't let any grass grow. They got after it. And sometimes we still see some things they could pick up on, but most of the time, if we say, "Hey, this is what I'll be doing it now," they take that literally. And
Yeah,
that's
right.
all fine. So,
Well, I'm always bad when we say do it now. We don't have an airplane flying over our head while we're still out there, so at least we get time to get out of the field. So
that's right.
that's good. Well, Dowdy, I know we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in Virginia in a few minutes, but you got yourself planted somewhere different. You're not in Georgia right now, so what in the world are you doing now?
Man, I am in Michigan. We came up here to finish planting. We started planting last week, and I've heard it 100 times, and I've seen it for the last 5 years. If you don't like the weather in Michigan, just give it 30 minutes. The forecast is going to change, and chances are reality's changing too. Man, we planted beans first, and we were waiting on the planter. We did some stuff in southern Michigan. We got it planted, had some planter issues, just Father help us, Lord Jesus. Uh, some things that just didn't go right, but we got some trials in southern Michigan, and we were going to try to get everything going and up here near the farm in Michigan, in northern Michigan. And the planter got here. The forecast is great. We get out there. We think we got all the bugs worked out of the planter. We're running, and I look at the forecast and it says severe thunderstorms coming. David, I wasn't there 12 hours ago. And sure enough, man, I mean, there was tornadoes in the area. It lasted for a day and a half. It come across from, Chicago moving northeast, and we got hammered. We got some beans planted, and I was sure thankful I had some fungicides and some goodies in the fur. You can rest assured of that. The beans are starting to crack and they're pushing now, but it cooled off a little bit, and we had, okay, we're going to plant some corn on Monday and Tuesday. All this week looks great on the forecast, not a rain chance, a little bit cooler, but no rain. And I says, the rain we got last week, it'll be dried off enough that we can finish planting the beans and start planting the corn. Guess what? I'm in Michigan right now, and guess what? It's rained all day yesterday, and it's now raining today, and it's supposed to rain at 11 o'clock tonight. That was not in the forecast, and it's 39, 38 degrees for a low and 50 for a high for the next 4 days.
Hey, Dowdy, you do know it's May 21st, right?
I'm 100%, but you do know I'm planting a point 0.6 to a 1.8 bean too.
Oh
And
my
everybody up here is planting 2 1s, 1 9s, 2 8s. And I said, no, we're gonna try some things different. So we got the John Deere man told me yesterday, he says, there's one thing about it, Hoss. If we don't learn something from this field, we're gonna have a problem. He said, because you got 5 or 6 varieties out here, and they from about 7, 8 different populations with fur, in the fur, without it. So we got a lot of data that we're gonna be able to collect, Lord willing, be able to see. And David, we're waiting to plant the corn. I'm practicing what I preach. We got some 90-day corn to 99, 100-day corn, some pioneer varieties, and we're anxious to see what they're going to do, but we hadn't got them in the dirt yet. I mean, I refuse to let that first drink of water be cold, and I refuse to put them in the ground and it take 2 to 3 weeks to come up. I want to collect heat fast. I want them to sprout, come up, and roll. So, but we did a bunch of strip tilling and all that. But I think what you were leading into is, what else do I have going on? And while it's raining, unfortunately, gestation on a doe is about 190 to 205 days. So it's a bell curve in how they have those babies, believe it or not. Between 190 and 205, what's the mean of that?
Well,
What's,
192.
what's the mean of 190 to 205? What's the midpoint?
Yeah, well, halfway. So
There you go. So about 197, 198 days. Well, guess what? It's like 197 today. And we had 22 fawns born yesterday, and it's raining. Raining. The fawns are wet. It's raining, cold outside. All these things are happening. And man, it is just, we're doing our best to try to keep the body temperatures up. We were up to midnight last night. We're having to pull fawns, bring them in, try to warm them up. Don't keep them away from mama too long. Put them back under the shelters. Hope they stay under the shelters. Put hay down. Try to keep them warm. Because if their body temp drops, they won't eat. And if their body temp drops too low, they'll die. So we're pulling fawns. We've got about 100 fawns on the ground right now. We got about 50 in the barn. We would normally have 50 by the end of the season. And we got 50 because our body temps are dropping. So David, what that means is, for the first 3 weeks, they don't know how to pee or poop. Their
that's
mama
right.
licks their butt, and that's how they know to pee and poop. So guess what we do, David? We ain't licking butts, but we taking wet wipes out there, and we're simulating that mama licking that butt, and we're having to feed them 4 times a day. We are committed now for 12 weeks. So I'm thankful I got the amount of interns that I've got here, thankfully. And so we're getting after it. We're deer farming, not just farming.
Yeah, that's right. Well, welcome to livestock, buddy.
And normally, David, I've been up here for years, and normally you'd have 70s for a high and maybe 40s and 50s for a low, but not the 30s and raining every day at a high of 48. I mean, I haven't seen that up here yet. And all the people listening that's from up north, they said, you just get ready, buddy. You'll see snow May the 20th sometimes. We might, but I haven't seen it yet. But it's not very conducive for, a 6 or 7 pound fawn, 10-pound fawn being healthy in this kind of weather. It is pneumonia weather. But I tell you what we did have, David. I saw Easton doing a happy dance this morning. We had our first albino deer.
Oh, wow.
In all the breeding we've done, and we didn't even breed for it. So it was totally a surprise. It's a healthy doe fawn, and she's pretty as she can be. Mama's taking good care of it, and the girls are ecstatic.
So, yeah. So are we talking just white fur, or do we have the pink eyes too?
Oh no, light color eyes, the whole 9 yards.
All right. Awesome. So you got a true one. Yeah. Well, now you talk about Michigan, I got to turn it back into corn, Dowdy, because, me and deer, there's a love-hate relationship. I like to eat them, and that's about the extent of it.
You like to shoot them to keep them out of your soybeans, right?
Yeah, right. But I remember the late Amada Shah used to be with Pioneer. They were doing some stress emergence trials. This was years back when I was doing some Pioneer Farm 1 meetings down in Mississippi and Georgia and the Carolinas. And we walked around, and he's like, we would plant corn. We would hope for a snow. And he had a planter out there, and it was covered up with snow just to see how corn would emerge and how long it would take. that's the kind of testing that these seed companies do. Because Dowdy, you're waiting. Some of your neighbors don't wait. They're just going to plant. They're going to, when the ground is fit, they're going to plant. And then, what hybrids to plant? They got to figure that out. Sometimes it's the cheapest one, or sometimes it's the one their in-laws or a family member sold them. But there's data out there to support. And part of Total Acre, we take it a step further. We're getting seed tested to make sure how things are coming up and how things grow. And that's something, you and I've talked about it. We're doing some stuff with Sodak now on how long it takes corn from the time it germinates till it breaks the tip of the soil. And these are things that are going to help growers down the road. And that's what we're doing. Now, Virginia, we're wet. We had a great spring. I talked about how emergence and things have just sat still. I mean, we've accumulated a few GDUs. We're over 500 on most of our corns now, but we've just been wet, and you can tell. And it's tissue sample wise, we're off the chain good, but the crop appearance is just not what we're accustomed to seeing. And that's down in Georgia. I had a good friend, John Riccone, came from Texas, and he was flying a drone over a couple fields, get stand counts, do some NDRE, and just see how the crop is looking. And he said in Georgia, I mean, not Georgia, in Texas, part of it looked good, but as he drove across the country, he didn't see one what he considered a really good looking field. And I think growers, as we're looking towards the future, having to assess the stands and then make sure we do the fundamentals. Herbicide out there. Know what kind of yield goals you got. Start fertilizing. Pull tissue samples just to get an understanding. And then, like you mentioned earlier, maybe dig some roots. Let's check. Make sure we got the right root development. We got the seed at the right depth. And we keep talking about the planter, but that is telling us how we're going to progress forward. And then we get into, fungicides, and then split nitrogen later with easy drops, and then fungicides even later. The one last thing I want to hit before we start talking about some other things is insects. One, if guys that got weed around, there's a insect called a stink bug. And now, do you remember years ago, and I would say maybe 4 years ago, we were doing the crop tours, and we were seeing damages, and growers didn't even know what a stink bug looked like. It wasn't even on their radar. And stink bugs can do so many things. They can pierce the plant now. It can cause tillering on the plant. Sometimes we think tillers are good. Sometimes it's just because the effect of a stink bug. Then it can affect the ear early, and then we know what can happen later on. It can pierce it, and then we start getting disease. So I think growers, they need to be checking. And if I find a stink bug, just one, I know my threshold's different than some of the university thresholds, but y'all, I know the penalty of insects. So I don't want to say I go preventative, but I am very proactive when we find it. And I think that's something that growers are missing the target sometimes.
Absolutely, David. And I agree. And I remember the field. We actually visited the field where we were there for combine. If you remember correctly.
Yeah.
And the guy, I mean, is doing it. There was 2 or 3 combines in the field. They were showcasing, performance of a specific combine, and I'm okay with all that. Man, they didn't want a grain behind that combine. They didn't want a kernel nowhere. A dove would starve, slam to death in that field for sure. And they were doing a good job setting the combine. And I had him stop. And me and you walk behind it, and we're like, yeah, that's good. And you're looking at, I know you like to do a power shut off, and you like to look at there and see what's going on and make recommendations and try to teach. And I said, well, David, we got a bigger problem. Let's walk in front of the combine. And I started shucking back ears, and I don't know if you remember that, but I shucked back a lot of ears, and I was looking at all of them, and I said, I asked the principal, I said, why don't you want corn coming out in the back? Well, that's yield. That's loss. I said, well, that's good. I get it. So that equates to money, right? Yep. I said, and 2 bushels or two kernels per square foot's a bushel, right? He said, oh, yeah. And I said, that's $5, $6 corn right then, right? Yeah. That's fine. I said, I get it. I said, so now let's go look at these ears. And David, we looked at the ears and you could see 12, 15, 20 hits of a stink bug on those kernels. 12, 15 to 20 kernels on an ear where stink bugs had pierced it. And I said, do you ever have problems with aflatoxin? Oh yeah, we can have problems with that. I said, look, man, I said, stink bugs causing this. Let's weigh these white chalky kernels versus those that are not affected. Let's see how much difference there is in that weight. But then let's also look at where your aflatoxin's coming. And David, you couldn't have said it best. If they're making applications across the field and there's small grain somewhere nearby or not, make sure, as a tank mix partner, have a good bifenthrin 6.1, 6.2 ounces, I think, is the nematicide as well. So it'll take care of spider mites as well. So if you're struggling with those things, that's just something you might want to consider.
Well, and you were out there. I remember that time. And the neat thing there, his scout was right there. And his scout said, we need to spray. And the principal owner was like, no, we're not going to spend that extra $3, $4, $5.
And I said, well, it ain't hard to do the math here. We got 12 to 15 kernels per year, and every year's got hits on them. I wonder how that equates to per square foot. And that scout says, I told you so. It's one of those deals, right? You can't save your way to prosperity, but you can spend your way broke. At that point, he should have made the decision to salvage the kernels he was going to make at that point, so that they were some good quality and didn't have problems, putting at risk other kernels because of aflatoxin. So,
well, I think the big take home is we create a plan, but you got to be out in the field. I've heard you say the best thing you see out there is your shadow. Growers, whether you got a scout or consultant or somebody needs to be out in the field and just start assessing what's going on, and then start making some applications. Well, Dowdy, one of the things, we got some guests coming up, and Total Acre getting ready to start our crop tours. And, when we were thinking about who could we invite to be a guest or sponsor something, I'm like, what better time would it be to have somebody where we're going to go to their farm and let's talk about things that we might see. So as growers are listening, talking to Preston Arrington, he was in Mississippi. He's like, I think I'm even going to fly out to Georgia just to see what's going on there. So growers can go to totalacre.com, see where our crop tours are. But I know we got two really good guests, and they're longtime friends of yours. So I'm looking forward to having some chat with them.
Good deal. Yeah, James and Jonathan are both brothers, and it's been invaluable to have them be part of Total Acre. I mean, they've been a friend for a long time. I've known them since the Pioneer One Farms, and obviously, we go way back. But no doubt about it, glad to have them. And as soon as we come back, David, we're going to showcase two Georgia boys.
Imagine having more days of perfect weather, a combine that's more powerful, or even more soybean bushels per acre at harvest. With Revitec fungicide, you don't have to imagine that last one, because it's proven to deliver up to 9.5 more soybean bushels per acre than the competition. With results like that, it's easy to see why Revitec fungicide is the #1 recommended fungicide by soybean farmers. Visit Revitec.com and talk to your BASF retailer today. Always read and follow label directions.
Are you carefully managing fertilizer applications and budget, but still not achieving your yield goals? Micro 500 from AgroLiquid effectively addresses yield-limiting micronutrient deficiencies without the expense of additional applications, nutrient waste, or an unbearable mess. Micro 500's balanced combination of micronutrients is safe to apply, and its compatibility is unmatched. Achieve your yield goals with Micro 500 from AgroLiquid. Find out more at agroliquid.com.
Dowdy, I know these are two Georgia guys, and you've known them for some time, but I've gotten to know them a little bit since they've been part of Total Acre, James and Jonathan Hitchcock. And, I guess I want to ask them why they joined Total Acre, but when I first heard about things that they were doing, these guys are high yielders, and they're guys that are already paying attention to the details. So I'm trying to think, well, where in the world are we going to help these two fellas on their farming? So welcome James and Jonathan to Breaking Barriers with R&D. I'm kind of anxious. We're going to have a bunch of questions for you, but I know y'all got some issues and some things you want to talk about. But total acre, y'all are already winning yield contests, and total acre is not about just high yield. It's about trying to make money, trying to help growers, because that's what most people are striving for. But why did y'all join first and foremost?
Absolutely. Total Acre's a great group. I kind of hesitated to join. I'm like, why am I going to pay someone to tell me how to farm when I've been doing it my whole life? Well, Taylor Brett, he was like, hey, I joined, went to the first meeting, and man, you got to tag along with me. So I joined, and I have not regretted it. It's so many more tools in the toolbox. I mean, it's not about just making high yields. It's about just looking at products, paying attention to more detail. And in the end, it equates to more yield, which equates to more ROI. And in today's market, with prices as low as they are, inputs as high as they are, I mean, every bushel counts. And Total Acre has just been a big help in just watching the crop, paying attention to detail, and just doing better in the end.
So you're saying inputs are high? I thought things were cheaper because now I just heard I ordered some Roundup yesterday, some more Power Max, and I was fearful that because of the tariffs, what was going on, and we bought some cheaper. Then I ordered some yesterday, and you know what? Price went up, of course.
Imagine that. I was
Nothing
telling
ever
Randy,
goes down. I said nothing ever goes down. It's always up.
Yeah.
Well, David, I'm gonna ask the $1 million question because everybody's wondering. Well, I wonder what David had to pay for it. What did it cost you a gallon?
Well, they're saying it's running about $18.50 a gallon now. So we were able to get it a little cheaper than that before, and now it's gone up. And now I don't know if that's because of the ingredients. Power Max is made in the U.S., but they ship the stuff from active ingredients come somewhere else. So is it part of the tariffs? Who knows? But it's a chance for them to raise the price, and it's probably not going to come down for a while.
James, you guys have had a little bit of a niche market up there. Y'all do quite a bit of non-GMO corn. I heard you mention when I asked you if you and your brother would be a part of the show, and you said, Randy, just tell me exactly how you responded to me. I said, James, I really want you to be on the show. Tell me exactly what you told me. See if you can remember what you told me a couple of days ago when I asked you this.
it went something like this. I said, Randy, the last 6 months I've been as down in the dumps about farming as I have ever been. It's just everything's against us. Crop prices are cheap. The inputs are steady going up. I mean, I bought a brand new sprayer in January. Been trading all our big equipment every year with Deere. Got a new sprayer in January and looking at ordering last week, and they went up 4.5%. And with the ag economy like it is, and John Deere posting big returns to their stockholders, I mean, it don't make any sense. The farmers always getting the wrong end of the deal. And as JFK said a long time ago, that the farmers buy retail and sell it wholesale and pay the freight both ways. I mean, it's totally relevant in today's market. And it's just, I've been down in the dumps. I've never wanted to quit farming, but it's been tough.
Well, I think a lot of people listening today would have the same sentiment, and it is frustrating. It is frustrating, and when is the end in sight? I remember when the prices started going up, when they had these new emission changes, when these, I guess, the Tier 4 engines and, figuring out a way to burn off DEF. And, we're going to see 3 or 4 years worth of price increases to cover that. Back when Obama was there and all the new green initiative and all this stuff was happening. It ain't stopped, David. I mean, there was some 12 to 20% increases back then, and it just seems like it's 3 to 5% every year. And then you hear about layoffs, and then they shipping stuff overseas for production, and then they're laying people off. How do they keep making prices go up, David? I just don't understand it. And it's not just them; it's everybody. I mean, it's in every facet of what we do. When's it going to change?
I don't know when it's going to change, but James, you just should have bought a lot more John Deere stock 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I was given as a gift years and years ago some stock to Deere, and it has split, and now it's where it's at. So I wish we had more. It's kind of like when my late great granddad and my late granddad bought the farm here. They only bought so much riverfront. Wish they just kept buying more, but they didn't. So now you're talking about the inputs. You talk about equipment. And the other thing is the grain that you're able to sell. Y'all being in the niche of the non-GMO, that's giving you a little bit of a buffer in there, but still it's not covering up the gap, not filling in that gap.
Absolutely. Without it, I don't know where we would be at. The non-GMO corn and beans have just given us a little boost in the market to help us get through these tough times. And I know just south of us, the cotton boys, I mean, they've really been taking it on the chin. The cotton market is really cheap, and you know what inputs cost. And I can't imagine what they're going through. I've got some friends I talk to, and they're down in the dumps, and it's mentally on farmers right now. It's a tough time.
No doubt. And I'm gonna make a plug there. I mean, James, that's part of why we as a group with Total Acre, we want people looking after one another, help keep them encouraged. Because David, I remember last year, and we've had some guys that have took the extreme measures and taken their life that we know of and things like that. So the times are hard, but that's not a solution. It's a selfish solution, but it really hurts the families and those that are left. So we really need to reach out to our loved ones and reach out to our friends and reach out to the ones that we see concerned with, because James, Jonathan, it's real. The pressure is there. You got debt to service and dreams to help make happen with farming, and it just seems like you do a lot today for a little bit of return with a lot of risk. So, David, we always pray for people, and if people know that people struggling out there mentally and emotionally with what's going on with the farm economy, we need to always stay on top of that. So, James, I appreciate you bringing that up. Just know you know my phone number. You need some pep talk in a different way. I'll pray with you, and we'll talk about something else. We'll get your mind off that for a minute at least. But
Absolutely.
I know it's a 1,000-pound gorilla, but you're right.
Hey, wait a second, James. Go ahead and type in Dowdy's phone number and show it on the screen. So other people have it, so Dowdy can pray for them.
Well, speaking of that, David, we are going to do something in the future where growers can send in questions, and we've got that to work so that we can answer stuff live. And I don't mind praying for people. I'm not ashamed where I come from, and I'm not ashamed of who helped get me there. And I believe prayer changes things, and I believe that with all my heart. Right. So I've been praying for these little fawns up here, that's for sure. So they'll make it through all this bad weather we're having. But regardless, I want to know a little bit about what's going on with you guys. We're going there next week, Lord willing. We're going to get to see possibly yours and maybe Mr. Cobb and I think Robbie Brett and somebody else. What's the other guy's name?
Cole go down.
Yes.
Cole and Bill go down.
Yes. I think we're going to see some of their crops. But before we talk about anybody else, you got any questions of us, observations, anything that you guys are doing that you like, dislike, that's going on for this year?
That or Jonathan, you're sitting in a cab. We know Georgia, y'all done plant corn and plant beans. So what in the world are you doing?
Planting peanuts.
Peanuts. So we make Jiffy peanut butter, or what's your market?
Seed peanuts is where most of our stuff going, ain't it, James? Going back into seed production.
Are you doing foundation or register seed, or are the 06s or some of these new varieties? I know 06s has been a staple for a long time, but they've lost some vigor. I know some. What varieties you growing?
This year we got some Tift NVHG, which is a new one. We got limited acres of them. We've been growing 06G pretty heavy. Our buying point produces peanut, grows probably 75% of the seed that goes into premium peanut shelling plants seed production. So in our area, the majority of the seed are grown here, and the majority of them are still 06G, but we're searching for new varieties because, I mean, these have been around for a long time.
James, are y'all on 36 singles, twins, 38 singles? Are you 30-inch peanuts? I mean, there's a lot of different configurations people have played with out there, but what have y'all found to be the most successful for you?
We are on 30-inch peanuts. Most of the growers in our area are 36, 38. Some of them are twin row 36, 38. But back in 2011, when we started the family farm back, we had no equipment. So I knew corn and beans done the best on 30-inch rows. So we started with peanuts also, and it's just something that's worked for us, and we make good yields with them.
And it keeps you from having to have different tractors on different row spacings to be able to pull it off. That's a nightmare, changing 30-inch to 36s or having extra equipment to make it work. So I kind of did the same thing, James. I mean, we planted some 15s and 30-inch corn for quite a bit of time. At the beginning, we started out with 36-inch twin row corn, and then we planted some 30s, and then we went to 15s, but we went that way on the peanuts as well. Are y'all strip tilling? Are y'all conventional on the peanuts? Do y'all work that ground? Do y'all put a bed out there like the 60-inch beds? And then how are you doing your peanuts?
We've been planting cover crops. I mean, we have 99% of our acres in cover crops, but with peanuts, in Washington County this year, cover crop was really heavy. Last year we tried to strip through it and just couldn't get a good seed bed. So this year we actually burn it, which I'm not a big fan of, but we burn it, run the subsoil leveler, and then run the turbo till, and then we flat planted it. It looks really, really good.
All right, when you say burn it now, are we talking burn down or are we talking fire?
We
burn it down. We burned it down a month ago, and then we burn it with fire.
Yeah.
And man,
David,
we had sheriff department. They were calling 911, and neighbors were calling people saying their houses was on fire, and it was a mess for a little while.
When we were doing the TV show, David, it reminded me of, we were doing a TV show, and we had planted corn or beans. We were doing some of the intercropping stuff, and I said, one of the biggest challenges is weed control. And I said, and I'm saying this on film, and I said, we burned this crop down, this cover crops down, but we also have a problem with weed control. So we have to really do a good job of burning it down. And when they played the B-rolls on the movie or the actual show, they actually showed a fire going across the field. I was talking literally, we burned it down with like Ramoxidol or something like that. And they were showing fire in the background. I'm like, well, I think you got lost in translation. Literally, it was burning it.
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, Jonathan, you're in the tractor. I've never planted a peanut. I sure like to eat peanuts, especially watching TV or something. What's the process? I mean, how deep do you have to plant slow? You focus on simulation. You put fertilizer down with the planter. What do you do when you plant peanuts?
It's slow. Seeds are big. Hoppers don't hold many, and about 7 acres and fill up again. You spend more time filling up than you do planting.
Are you twin row 30s or singles?
Single.
Okay. Yeah. So you got a 3.5 bushel hopper, I'm assuming. Oh yeah. Yep. Single row 30s. You got a insecticide hopper there. I heard you say earlier you're going to be putting out some thimet. Explain to the growers that may not know anything about it. Why are you putting thimet on?
It's it's just a granular insecticide. Helps with insects and tomato. What is it, John?
Tomato spotted wilt.
Yeah, thrips and the tomato spotted wilt virus.
We used to put Timic out there for years, and you would have an open furrow and some birds would die. They put a stop to it, but it's a great nematicide. I don't know that thimet has a lot of benefits on nematodes anymore. Are y'all doing anything for nematodes in the furrow? I know there's been some products out there that people are using the peanuts for nematodes, but are y'all doing any of that, or are you just letting rotation take care of it?
We stick to a good rotation. The land where he's at is actually in a neighboring county, and it had been out of peanuts for 7 or 8 years. And 2 years ago, we planted peanuts, and where he's at now, we're going back on a shorter rotation. But because we were without peanuts for so long, I think we'll be okay this year. In the future, we might have to look into a nematicide or something, but it's good peanut dirt, sandy, loamy dirt, and we've made some really good yields over there.
Good deal. Now, with
Thanks,
anything, you
David.
make money.
I mean, planting peanuts about a little over 2 inches deep. The slower you plant, the better singulation you get. In furrow, we're just putting a inoculant, a fungicide, and putting some reveal in furrow.
So, David, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about a peanut. And I know you're from Virginia. They grow some Virginia peanuts up there, so you may have a little intimate knowledge on it. But you remember how I used to try to talk you into singulating beans?
Word.
I told you it would pay.
Yeah.
And you said you picked your battles, and it was easier to clean it out from the seed business and all that. And y'all were doing a controlled spill.
Yeah,
even with a stupid peanut plate, man, it's a controlled spill. We wish we could find a way to singulate those peanuts and get every one of them 2 to 3 inches. The goal is to try to get, 6 seed a foot. What most farmers are planting, they hope to get 4.5 per foot that emerge. Obviously, peanuts will split. The seed is pretty delicate. You got to handle those bags carefully. But 6 seed per foot. Some guys are planting 8 to get 4. And the bad part is, David, it might germ 95%, but you plant 8 to get 4. That math don't work to 75, 80%. And you buying it by the pound. And so that's another racket in the peanut industry, I can just tell you.
I don't know if you can see this or not. This is a picture I took yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You see all them splits in there, David?
Yeah. Good golly.
He paid for that. It's got a seed treatment on it, and it's got all those splits in there, and I guarantee you they ain't coming up. It ain't
Hey,
like a pea.
I bought some beans and corn and didn't look much different than that sometimes, though.
But David, you know they bring you the best they got.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead and tell them I don't buy it. Just like when you asked what the price of Roundup is, I should have just said, well, they give it to me. I don't know what the problem is.
There you go. You're getting a little slow. I figured that was going to be the
Yeah,
but,
yeah, that's right. I had to think about it.
The
I was
peanuts
messing with Alex earlier. He sent a Snapchat and had a couple pallets of Veltima on the floor getting ready for corn fungicide, and I was messing with him. I said, I bet that didn't cost you much. I know you get it for free.
There you go. Don't cut him no slack. He don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Imagine having more days of perfect weather, a combine that's more powerful, or even more soybean bushels per acre at harvest. With Revitec fungicide, you don't have to imagine that last one, because it's proven to deliver up to 9.5 more soybean bushels per acre than the competition. With results like that, it's easy to see why Revitec fungicide is the #1 recommended fungicide by soybean farmers. Visit Revitec.com and talk to your BASF retailer today. Always read and follow label directions.
It's time for a crop nutrition plan that gets more return from every drop. Starting with Pro Germinator from Acre Liquid, a complete phosphorus fertilizer product that includes nitrogen, potassium, and iron. More than 30 years of research shows that lower application rates of Pro Germinator often outperform other sources of fertilizer. With Acre Liquid's Pro Germinator, you can apply less and expect more. Find out more at agriliquid.com.
All right, we're getting ready to come out to y'all's place. What next week? What are we going to look at, Jonathan and James? What are we going to see?
I think we're gonna start at Southern Cobb Farms with Trevor and Mr. Kevin. They got some corn planted early, and I've been hearing a lot of rumors about it. I think it's gonna push some limits. Probably gonna be some of the best corn they've ever harvested, and I'm excited to get out in there and walk and look at it and let y'all critique it and see what y'all think about it. And Later that day, if we have time, we might come back to one of our farms, and we've got some soybeans and some corn also. Our early corn in Washington County, we got a little behind wide drop and getting our nitrogen out, so it's struggling a little bit. But the fields that we plant for plots and all, they're looking really, really good. We're wide dropping them, easy dropping them right now, getting some things put out, trying to push the yields. I hate to admit it, but I'm behind on tissue testing. We sent a bunch out this week. I'm anxiously awaiting the results of them to see where we're at. But we strip tilled again this year, put a homogenized blend of fertilizer under the row, and I did get a couple of tissue tests on the early farmers back, and they looked really, really good a couple weeks ago. But so then on Thursday morning, I think we're gonna go to Bill and Cole Go Downs. I've seen some Snapchats of their corn, looks really, really good. And then I think we'll finish up at Robbie and Foster Brett's. And again, I think Robbie and them had a 98% flag test within 12 hours. So I think it ought to look really good.
Well, David, you heard the first stop we were going to make, right?
Yeah.
And Mr. Cobb, Trevor, and Mr. Kevins. I told them they bought my planter from me.
Oh,
I told
okay.
them don't be teaching that planter no bad tricks. I had it dialed in and tuned up. So I know they ran that planter last year. I assume they ran it again this year, but you root for people to have good success. And, you know, it's hard. Mr. Kevin's a banker, and he loans a lot of farmers money. And Kevin called me and says, Randy, I got an itch. I'm ready to go plant. I said, well, I can't stop that itch. I said, but I hope I can give you a cure and tell you what the risks are. And I said, you ain't risky with a lot of business ventures and how you loan money. So practice what we preach, stick to the fundamentals. And it sounds like he either did it and got by with it, or he stuck with the fundamentals. It'd be exciting to see what they got going on.
Yeah.
I think they did plant some a little early, probably outside of what your limits would be. But the fields they're pushing, I think they got them planted ideally, and I think they look really good.
Good deal. Well, we look forward to seeing it. Obviously, James, you've been winning the state for quite some time, the last few years for sure. What's your thoughts on your corn right now? I mean, I'm going to ask David that before we get off this phone. I've already asked him once. Every week I ask him, all right, David, you get the first box checked. You know, what's something maybe that you could tell the audience or some of the people that's listening that you feel like that has helped you on your farm, and what's your corn kind of looking like?
I think we went to strip till. This is our second year strip tilling, which in Georgia strip tilling is preparing a seed bed, but we added the fertilizer component to it last year, and we're putting that dry fertilizer about 6 inches under the seed, and we're adding the NP and K, but we're also adding a lot of minors, and it's gotten our tissue test up, and the corn looks really good right now. It's planted a little bit later than what I would like. We got into April with our NCGA fields, which I'm not a big fan of, but they're looking good. They got a long way to go. We can dodge some of this summer heat at grain field. I think we got some they'll probably push our limits on our farm with some of the highest yield we've ever made.
Good deal. Are you using a soil warrior or Montag? What are you doing? How are you putting out your fertilizer and strip till?
We're using a Slagle strip till and got a Montag cart hooked behind it.
Okay. Is it going behind a shank or a set of coaters? I'm not familiar with that setup.
It's a shank. And you know, last year y'all were on our farm doing the farm tour, and we done some compaction tests, and it really opened my eyes up. So this year, one of the reasons we're late planting is I ordered a new Ummerfirst strip till, which has the deep shank. So we run it and got the ground broke up, busted the hard pan, and then we come back with the Slagle and the fertilizer cart. So the Ummerfirst strip till did the hard work, and the Slagle was just really preparing the seed bed a little better, and then placing that fertilizer under the row.
What, Jonathan, do you run the strip till machine, or y'all split it up, or no?
I don't get off the planter.
You don't get off the planter. So once
I'll
you're
stay
on,
on the planter. There ain't nobody else running my planter.
oh, well, that and nothing wrong with that. And man, he's on the mission and he takes pride in it. So we'll be the judge on how good a job we did. And I know, last year when we walked, there was some great looking corn. So from a standpoint of the planting process. Now,
Well, one thing that's always stuck was last year, Randy said the planter man did a really good job out here. So I take a lot of pride in the planting part of it. I try to get it, and that's one of the biggest things I've learned with Total Acre is just planting. We knew before we joined Total Acre that our planter was our limiting factor. I mean, our singulation looked good, our emergence looked good, and we just learned a lot through Total Acre to improve that.
yep, awesome. Well, I know, we spent a lot of time talking about it. We even had a planter clinic in Arizona for 3 years, and we visited it. And unfortunately, when the planter leaves the field, a lot of your yields determined, and whether it's on the right track or the wrong track. So having one person, you can't point the finger at somebody if you're the one doing it. So I take pride in air planting. It's either my son, Marley, or myself plant all the corn. And then, we all pitch in on the beans because, most of them are double crop. So we're late. We're trying to get the window, trying to get them in the ground quick. But so that's cool. So I didn't realize that you were the only one that planted. So
We'll find somebody else to plant peanuts.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
well,
Hey,
when you
what's worse, planting peanuts or digging them and picking?
All the above.
I agree. Because it's about a 3 mile an hour, 4 mile an hour digging process, and then it's a 1.5 to 1.9 mile an hour harvesting process. 6 rows at a time, and it is 25 acres a day per machine, maybe 30 in big fields. If depending on when the dew dries in the morning and when the dew starts to fall in the evening. So it's like slow death by paper cut, David. The only thing you do fast in that field maybe is spray.
okay.
And you're gonna spray them 10 times in a year. By the time you count herbicides, pre, post, and all the fungicide trips it takes to keep them stupid things from getting white mold and leaf spot, you're gonna spray 10 to 12 times on that too. So it's not for the faint of heart or lazy people, for sure.
Yeah. Well, fellas, anything else y'all want to say before we wrap it up? Because I'm anxious to get out there, just less than a week away, I guess.
Any questions you want to stump David with so we can get them answered real quick?
How's your corn looking, David?
I said earlier, you probably weren't on, we had a great start, but then the corn just slowed down. We've been wet. We've been cool. Clearly we got some good fields, but I don't have a field that just looks off the chain good right now. We just finished doing the herbicide. We've done the primer passes, tissue samples are great. It's just the crop's not showing. Got tremendous root system. So we've checked those boxes. Just not sure. And just like Dowdy was saying, we talk a lot when it's bad, and when it's really good, we're quiet. I'm just not sure. And last night we were sitting on the porch because I had a procedure this morning, and we're sitting on the porch, and just like a farmer, I'm like, oh, the corn just don't look as good. She's like, you say this crap every year. So, yeah.
David, we need sunlight in a jug. We still need to produce sunlight in a jug. If we do that, we're gonna retire. We mix up the salt, but we won't be having to worry about as much. If I can figure out how to do that, that's gonna be bad.
Yeah, that's right. Well, fellas, we really appreciate y'all taking time. Jonathan, I know there is nothing more aggravating because I've been to where you are. You're in the tractor, it's just sitting there running, you ready to go. And James, you're trying to keep everything intact, mixing up chemical and stuff. So we appreciate y'all's first, your faith. We appreciate y'all's involvement with Total Acre, and thanks for being part of Breaking Barriers with R&D today.
Now, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week in Georgia.
Yes, sir. We appreciate your friendship first and foremost, and thank you for your testimony. Y'all not bashful about Jesus Christ either. And Jonathan, I know you a breathing miracle. You had your life flash before your eyes a few years ago, and we've lifted you up in prayers many times, and there's no doubt about it. Everybody needs to lift everybody up. David, I'm going to let you close this thing out like you always do. Thank you guys for being here, and Lord willing, we'll see somebody out there that's listening. Look at totalacre.com, and you'll be able to see where we're going to be at on our tours. Maybe we'll see you there.
Well, as always, I like to close and say, may God bless the seeds that you sow. But, there are other things that are going on. Dowdy talked about the stresses that he has going on. We got to be cognizant of people. And other things, growers and farmers, we got to watch our health. And there are certain things, we just heard Biden's got prostate cancer. I just had a colonoscopy this morning, less than an hour and a half ago, Dowdy. So I told Zach before we got going, I'm not responsible for anything I say because I might still be a little under anesthesia. But the doctor came in and said, we're glad you came, because I had a very large polyp that she said had a tentacle. It would have turned into cancer. So I have to do it again in 3 years rather than 5 or 10. So, there are simple things that we as men and women need to be doing to take care of ourselves. And these are simple procedures. Prostate 1, I just came off that cancer. And now we just had this thing taken care of on my colon. So, God is in control, but he gives us information so that we can try to control or take care of some things. So let's do that. And y'all look forward to another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. And again, thanks for BASF, and look at all the Farm Journal ways to be part of and see what R&D are doing. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon for another new episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, all episodes are available on Farm Journal TV and anywhere podcasts are found.